Dr. Rakesh Kumar. Can you all see my screen? Can you see the screen? No. That's what I missed. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. My video is not on, and I'm sure that you will not miss much. Most of the time, you need to see the screen that I am sharing. I am Rambabu, and I am from Greenco. We are a energy services company, and the topic that I am going to speak to you on is green hydrogen and green molecules, and the market mechanisms of Paris Climate Agreement, how it can make green molecules and green hydrogen happen, which is the main topic of this particular conference. Of course, it's a great to be on a panel with distinguished panelists, and they covered wide variety of subjects actually, mostly the agriculture, which is not been in the mainstream conversations of the climate mitigation. And also Robert Constanja covered the whole ecosystem services and sustainable well-being, and how that changing the direction of movement from GDP to well-being is what is going to achieve the ambition of the Paris Climate Agreement. And we at Greenco, we are a company founded to provide affordable and reliable energy solutions to India. We are only happy that the affordable and reliable energy solutions to India also can be provided by actually clean energy. So we are about already something like 13 years old in India, and we have 7.3 gigawatt of solar, hydro, and wind assets all across the country. And we are still, we grew both organically and inorganically in having these energy assets over the years. Presently, we are building about 10 gigawatt of the storage pipeline. So our next pillar of the growth is the storage assets. And the third pillar of the growth is that once I have the storage assets with the renewable energy assets, I have 24/7 renewable energy being supplied. Hence, I can use the electrolyzer and split the water and actually produce hydrogen at an affordable price in India. And from there, I can get on to the green molecules like methanols and ammonia, etc., etc. So we have three pillars in the business: energy asset pillar, which is very well built as a business; storage assets we are building today; and the green molecules we are again building today. And slowly we are scaling up the green molecules in the area of making green hydrogen, green ammonia, and green methanol, and other such green molecules. The point in my presentation that I am going to make is that a swifter transition to green hydrogen is imperative for India. It may not be as important for many other European nations, but for achieving the energy independence by 2047, which our Prime Minister has put as a target actually for the country, to be able to do that and for the economic well-being of India, it is extremely important for India, whereas it is important for the globe also, but more important for India and more feasible for India to have a swifter transition to green hydrogen. And how that swifter transition to green hydrogen in India is going to be facilitated by the Paris Climate Agreement is what I am going to argue in my brief presentation. And there will be some linkage with the agriculture. I will also bring that out because we are talking about the green molecule also. So most of the hydrogen in India is produced from the fossil fuels, and you steam reform the natural gas, or you partially oxidize the methane, or do coal gasification. And I think the last two options that I talked about is much less, whereas the steam reforming of natural gas, the natural gas that is imported into India, is how we produce hydrogen. And around 3.6 million tons of India's annual hydrogen consumption of 6.7 million tons is actually utilized in the petroleum refining, and the rest is utilized in fertilizer production, and a meager amount is in methanol production. So most of the natural gas that gets imported actually gets into making hydrogen, and most of the hydrogen that gets produced, or significant portion of the hydrogen that gets produced, actually gets into petroleum refining, and significant amount into the fertilizer production. And the cost of hydrogen production through SMR or the ATR process in India is something like 120 to 180 per kg. And this is higher by about 100% in comparison to some regions across the globe where the natural gas is easily available. So for us, hydrogen from natural gas is much more expensive than it is for the Europe. Hence, when I want to think about a green hydrogen, which is much more expensive, of course, it comes to around $4 per kg, whereas the steam SMR process of a natural gas gets you there within something like $2.5 per kg. Hence, green hydrogen is expensive, but the ease of transition to green hydrogen, as you can see, is much easier and much beneficial for India than for many other countries and regions in the world. It could be Middle East, it could be Norway, it could be many other countries where natural gas is easily. So for our energy independence, okay, it is a natural gas, and from natural gas, the hydrogen, okay, is the first thing that has to go. So in addition to that, the economic benefits that are going to be delivered by either a green or a blue hydrogen, which is by natural gas or coal gasification, is much lesser to Indian economy than compared to the green hydrogen. Because most of the value gets generated outside, and we import that value in, and we simply turn that into, it's as good as hydrogen buying. SMR doesn't create much of value inside the country. So most of the hydrogen consumption or hydrogen use that we are doing in the country, whether it is in the petroleum refining or in the fertilizer making, okay, most of it actually helps the economies outside, and it is a cost to us. Whereas by shift to the green hydrogen, okay, we are actually going to make the much of the value stay within the country. So the point that we are trying to make is that the earlier transition to green hydrogen is advantageous to India. It is much more advantageous than any other country. Hence, our pathway to green hydrogen has to be much more swifter than many countries. So in this whole conference, whatever that has been argued to you about a swifter transition to green hydrogen, actually India has to look for much more swifter transition to green hydrogen than many other countries outside. It is not about who bears the climate mitigation responsibility. Do you have higher responsibility? Do you have higher burden or not? For India, the shift to green hydrogen is not about only mitigation of climate, but it is about actually energy independence of India, the target put by the Prime Minister by 2047. So that is the main point why we need to shift to the green hydrogen. So for green hydrogen, it is very, very important. You have two things in green hydrogen. Either you have a variable renewable electricity operating on an alkalizer, and you produce hydrogen and store hydrogen, because hydrogen application requires a continuous supply of hydrogen. So there are two options here. Either you store energy and make the energy continuous and produce green hydrogen, and use the alkalizers, use the electrolyzers, use the alkaline electrolyzers or any other electrolyzers 24/7, because the energy that you have is 24/7, and you don't require any hydrogen storage, but you can directly use the hydrogen. But what we are doing in India and also at Greenco is that we are actually producing the green hydrogen using the continuous RE. Hence, the electrolyzer is utilized 24/7, not 30% of the time. Electrolyzer constituting the major capital costs. Okay, the cost of generating the green hydrogen comes down, Hence, we are able to actually provide, because of this long duration energy storage, which is more cost effective than hydrogen storage. Okay, so we are shifting the storage problem towards the energy rather than shifting it towards the hydrogen. So by not shifting it towards the hydrogen, we are solving a number of safety problems, a cost related issues, etc., etc. And we are able to actually deliver decarbonization and also higher economic value. So in Greenco, due to the storage assets that we are able to turn the variable renewable energy into a firm renewable energy, hence continuous renewable energy. Hence, we are able to use the electrolyzers 24 by 7. Hence, we are able to bring down the cost of the green hydrogen and make it more affordable for various applications, which we will talk about it little later again. So, how do I want to get the green hydrogen price parity with the blue hydrogen or gray hydrogen? Gray hydrogen, what I meant by saying is that gray hydrogen is that hydrogen which uses natural gas, does the steam methane reformation, and the CO2 is produced, and also the hydrogen is produced. When the CO2 is sequestered or captured and stored, that hydrogen is called blue hydrogen. When it is not stored or sequestered, that hydrogen is called gray hydrogen. Today in India, gray hydrogen comes at around $2 per kg. And whereas the green hydrogen is about $4, roughly, that is what everybody talks about. If I want to get the green hydrogen's price parity, I need to do $2 gain. Actually, $1 per kg can be delivered through the benefits of decarbonization. The hydrogen, for variety of use cases where it gets applied, it saves through the life cycle up to anywhere from 15 to 20 tons of carbon dioxide for ton of hydrogen that gets used. And each ton at a carbon price of around $50+, okay, actually can get me in the manufacturing of hydrogen a dollar reduction. So from $4, immediately I come down to $3. And next dollar per kg, if the Indian government can bring in policies that assure a price, long-term price and a long-term volumes, I think the investors and the manufacturers will be able to innovate and work on the costs and bring down another dollar advantage. So $1 + $1 advantage, immediately we become competitive with the gray hydrogen, which is produced out of the NG. And if the green hydrogen replaces the gray hydrogen produced out of the natural gas that is imported, immediately we can cut down on import of the natural gas. And by 1 decade, just as Mr. Ambani talked in the morning, okay, within 1 decade of by 2030, we most probably will be able to stop significant amount of imports of the natural gas into the country and achieve a kind of energy independence. So here only I wanted to talk about the Paris Climate Agreement. As you all know, the Paris Climate Agreement, number one, okay, it has already given nationally determined commitments to each country, and the countries can cooperate and work together, okay, to meet these nationally determined commitments, NDCs, through cooperative mechanisms, okay, enunciated under Article 6.2. And Article 6.4 has market mechanisms using which this can be done. So if the India can very nicely use, unlike in the past CDM, where many countries like India did not have any obligation, this time actually country has an obligation. So country cannot transfer low-hanging fruits for other countries to meet their NDCs, but countries should actually keep with itself the low-hanging fruits and only transfer those credits generated about very expensive projects, very big moves like green hydrogen move or storage moves or something like that. Only those ones where there is a price parity is not yet achieved and it is expensive to do that, get there to the price parity. Such projects need to be approved under the Paris Climate Agreement, Article 6.2 and 6.4. If such a thing is done, immediately the green hydrogen in India becomes, we will achieve likely to achieve a parity with the gray hydrogen in India, and then we can really stop the import of the NG. And at the same time, we are almost getting nearer to the net zero goal of the, which is the Paris Climate Agreement's ambition to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. So the hydrogen, green hydrogen, not only achieves energy independence for India, but also takes India towards the net zero or the Paris Climate Agreement's ambition to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. So it's extremely important for India to provide a guaranteed market, a long-term quantum and price for green hydrogen, besides approving these projects, to get the approving these projects to generate internationally transferable mitigation outcomes under Article 6.2 and 6.4 of the Paris Climate Agreement. Two things Government of India needs to do. One is the Paris Climate Agreement and make these into ITMOs, internationally transferred mitigation outcomes. And second thing is that for the green hydrogen, they will have to specify certain areas, specify certain price and quantum, and sign a long-term contracts with some of the generators or manufacturers of green hydrogen, so that the $4 price barrier or price parity to $2 can happen, and the green hydrogen will become an important lever for achieving the energy independence by 2047. We have at Greenco, we have already creating a significant amount of storage assets across India. You can see, and we are talking about gigawatt scales. Nowhere they are smaller. We are creating almost 7 of them, totaling to something like a 10 gigawatt of storage assets. And this 10 gigawatt of storage assets can actually support another 30-40 gigawatt of renewable energy and make the renewable energy firm energy. Otherwise, renewable energy is generally a variable energy, and renewable energy can now become firm energy. Once renewable energy becomes firm energy, and we can supply such renewable energy to replace the coal-based captive power plants, which are working very suboptimally across the world, across the country, but also use that power to do the water electrolysis. And as I told before, this water electrolyzers can be used 24/7, hence their capital can be used very optimally, and then generate hydrogen, and from there generate green ammonia and various other chemicals, okay, which will decarbonize a lot of heavy transport, marine transport, fertilizer production, and a lot of chemical production, besides simply having a decarbonized power system in India. So for green hydrogen, as you know, that the immediate markets, as I said again and again, it will be fertilizer market, the ammonia production, then methanol production, then various other applications like that into steel industry, and also into metal processing. And there are certain later applications of green hydrogen. So we are focusing mainly on the number 1 applications of the green hydrogen, and the country should also focus on them. And slowly we need to progress to the number 2 and number 3 as the use cases expand. And okay, we can by FY30, actually the use cases can be up to number 3. And a heavy transportation use case could be actually at a later date, and earlier applications could be actually the marine transportation, fertilizer, steel, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rambabu, for really very, very comprehensive presentation in terms of what India should be doing and Indian industry, which is into this field, doing. May I now request all the panelists to ask